I was still groggy from the anesthesia when I heard my son-in-law's voice in the hallway. "He's not our problem," he said. "No family member can take him home." The words floated through the fog in my head. Oh, I was 68 years old, just out of a routine hernia operation, and the man who was supposed to drive me home was telling the hospital staff to leave me there. I didn't move. I kept my eyes closed and listened. A nurse's voice, softer, uncertain. "Sir, we need someone to sign the discharge papers." "He can't drive himself." "Then call a taxi," Derek said, "or a medical transport." "I don't care. I have a business to run." I reached for my phone on the bedside table and opened the voice memo app. I pressed the red button. The timer started. My hand shook a little from the anesthesia, but my mind was clear. Clearer than it had been in months. I slipped the phone under the thin pillow, still recording. Footsteps. The squeak of sneakers on polished hospital floors. A door swinging shut. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling tiles. The fluorescent lights hummed. My mouth tasted like cotton and antiseptic. I had paid for Derek's landscaping company to meet payroll for the last 18 months. I had signed a personal guarantee on a $120,000 loan from Payroll Solutions Incorporated so he could keep his crew during the slow season. I had done it because Claire asked me to, because Derek promised he'd pay it back, because family helps family. If you're enjoying this story so far, please take a moment to subscribe to Revenge Stories. It helps me know you want to hear more. Derek thought I was old and soft and alone. He thought I would just lie there and take it. He didn't know I was an accountant for 40 years. I waited until the hallway went quiet. Then I stopped the recording, saved the file, and dialed the number for Payroll Solutions Incorporated from memory. I had called them every month to confirm the guarantee was still in place. Derek never knew that. He thought I just signed papers and forgot about them. A woman answered on the second ring. "Payroll Solutions, this is Karen. How could I help you?" "Karen, this is Richard Mercer. I'm calling to revoke my personal guarantee on the Desert Green landscaping payroll loan." A pause. "Mr. Mercer, that guarantee is tied to a loan of $120,000. If you revoke it, the loan will default on Saturday, March 18. The company's assets will be seized." "Yes," I said, "I understand." "Sir, can you confirm your identity for me?" I gave her my social security number, my date of birth, my mother's maiden name. I spoke each digit slowly and clearly. "Thank you, Mr. Mercer. The revocation will be effective as of this moment. I'll send you a confirmation email." "Do that," I said. "And Karen? If anyone from Desert Green calls to ask about it, tell them the guarantee was revoked by the signatory. Tell them I have the paperwork." I hung up and slipped the phone back under my pillow. The nurse came back 10 minutes later with a clipboard and a phone number for a medical taxi service. She looked embarrassed. She didn't meet my eyes. "I'm sorry about the confusion with your family," she said. "There's no confusion," I said. "I understand perfectly. The taxi arrived at 3:17 in the afternoon. The driver helped me into the back seat. I gave him my address, a modest house in a quiet neighborhood, paid for and owned free and clear since 1995. As we pulled out of the hospital parking lot, I watched the glass doors slide shut behind us. Somewhere inside, Derek was probably already on his phone telling his foreman about a new job, believing his world was still on track. He had no idea that by Saturday, his payroll would be gone. His equipment would be gone. His business would be gone. And I would be at his family dinner smiling, waiting for him to figure it out. The medical taxi turned onto the freeway. I leaned my head against the cold window and let the rumble of the road vibrate through my bones. I wondered how long it would take for Derek to realize his payroll was gone. The medical taxi dropped me off in front of my house at 4:15. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, keys in my hand, watching a neighbor's sprinkler cycle across a patch of brown grass. The air smelled like dust and chlorine from the community pool 2 blocks over. Everything normal. Everything exactly as I had left it. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you notice the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the grandfather clock my wife had bought at an estate sale 23 years ago. She had loved that clock, said it made the house feel alive. I set my hospital discharge papers on the kitchen counter and walked upstairs to my bedroom. The incision still pulled when I moved. I needed rest. The doctor had been clear about that. I climbed into bed and slept for 14 hours straight. Tuesday morning, March 14th, I woke up at 7:58, 2 minutes before my alarm. The pain had dulled to a persistent ache. I made coffee slowly, one-handed, and carried it to my home office. The room was small, 10 by 12, with a single window facing the backyard. A metal filing cabinet in the corner, a desk I had built myself out of oak in 1998. My laptop sat exactly where I had left it 3 days ago, before the surgery. I sat down slowly and opened my banking app first. My checking account showed a balance of $4,000. That was normal. My savings account, though, showed a number that made me stop breathing for a moment. 185,000. It was supposed to be 200,000. My life savings, 40 years of careful accounting, modest investments, and the insurance payout after my wife passed from ovarian cancer in 2017. $200,000 that I had planned to leave to Claire after I was gone. $15,000 was missing. I clicked on the transaction history and scrolled. There it was, line after line, 6 separate withdrawals over the past 6 months, each one labeled business expense. $500 in October, $1,000 in November. Then $3,000 in December, $2,000 in January, $4,000 in February, and finally $4,500 in early March. The dates matched Derek's payroll schedule, every single one. I pulled up the account details for my savings. That was when I saw it. The joint signatory, my name and Derek Morrison, listed together. I had authorized his joint signatory status only because he falsely claimed it was needed for emergencies. I printed every page, every transaction, every date, every dollar. Then I opened the folder marked Loans in my filing cabinet. I kept physical copies of everything, old habits from 40 years of accounting. I found the original loan agreement for Desert Green Landscaping, the one I had signed at Claire's request in December of 2021. $120,000 from Payroll Solutions Incorporated. My signature, legitimate, notarized. But there was another document I had never seen before. I pulled it out. A loan agreement from First Arizona Credit Union, dated September of last year, in the amount of $60,000. My signature was on the bottom line. Except it wasn't. I knew my own signature. I had signed thousands of checks, tax returns, and lease agreements over 40 years. The slant was wrong. The loop on the A was too tight. The R in Richard didn't have the little flick at the end that I always added. Someone had forged my name. I sat back in my chair. The hum of the refrigerator filled the room again. I thought about Derek's voice in the hospital hallway. It's not our problem. I thought about the $15,000, the $60,000 loan, the forged signature, the fact that my own daughter's husband had been stealing from me for 6 months, and I hadn't noticed. I picked up my phone and called Mark Jen. Mark picked up on the second ring. Richard, how was the surgery? The surgery was fine, I said. The recovery is going to be interesting. What do you mean? I told him everything. The hospital, the phone call to Payroll Solutions, the joint signatory on my savings account, the unauthorized withdrawals, the forged loan document. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then Mark spoke. His voice was low and steady. Richard, do you have copies of everything? I'm looking at them right now. Can you email them to me tonight? Yes. Good, he said. I'm going to look at the statutes of limitation on forgery and fraud in Arizona. But based on what you've described, this is enough for a criminal case. I waited. There was a beat of silence. But I have a better idea, Mark said. The next morning, I woke before my alarm. 7:58, 2 minutes early. I had always been an early riser, but that day felt different. The pain from the surgery was a dull ache now, manageable. The real weight in my chest was something else entirely. I showered slowly, dressed in my best clothes, a navy button-down shirt, khaki slacks, leather shoes I hadn't worn in months. I wanted to look like a man who had everything under control. Because I did. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. I pulled up the email I had sent to Mark the night before. The attachments were still there. The bank statements, the forged loan document, the transaction history showing every dollar Derek had taken. I reviewed them one more time, memorizing the numbers like they were testimony. Then I printed everything, 2 copies, one for Mark, one for me. I placed the papers in a manila folder and drove to Desert Green Landscaping. The office was a single-story building off Bell Road, surrounded by chain-link fence and stacks of irrigation pipe. Derek's truck was in the parking lot, a new Ford F-250, pearl white, with the company logo on the door. I wondered how much of my money had paid for that truck. The receptionist looked up when I walked in. A young girl, maybe 22, she had a nervous smile. "Mr. Mercer? Derek didn't mention you were coming." "He doesn't know," I said. "Is he in?" She nodded and gestured toward the hallway. "No!" I walked past her desk, down the narrow corridor, past a door marked Operations and another marked Payroll. I stopped at the last door. The nameplate read, Derek Morrison, owner. I knocked once. Then I opened the door. Derek was sitting behind his desk, phone pressed to his ear. He looked up, and his face flickered through a dozen expressions in half a second. Surprise, annoyance, then a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He held up a finger, telling me to wait. I didn't wait. I walked to the chair across from his desk and sat down. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone. He set it down. "Richard, I wasn't expecting you. I'm sure you weren't." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. The smile stayed fixed. "Look, about yesterday. The hospital called me. They said you found your own ride home. I figured you were fine." "I was fine," I said. "But that's not why I'm here." I pulled the manila folder from my bag. I set it on the desk between us. "I didn't open it." Derek looked at the folder, then back at me. The smile flickered. "What's that?" "Open it." He hesitated. For a moment, I saw something real in his eyes. Fear. It was brief, almost invisible, but it was there. Then he laughed, a loud, hollow sound that filled the room. "You're going to show me a piece of paper? Is that it?" He leaned forward and snatched the folder, opened it. His eyes moved across the top page. The smile vanished. I watched him read, watched his jaw tighten, watched his thumb trace the edge of the forged document. "This is the loan you signed," I said. "The one from First Arizona Credit Union. For $60,000. For Desert Green." He didn't look up. "So?" "I didn't sign it." He let out a short breath. Then he dropped the folder onto the desk and met my eyes. "Aye!" His expression had changed, cold now, calculating. "You'd never notice, old man," he said. The words came out flat and matter-of-fact, like he was stating a weather report. "You never check anything. You were always too busy with your little accounting books." I felt a calm settle over me, completely still, like a lake in winter. "I noticed," I said. He blinked. Then he laughed again. That same hollow sound. "Okay, so you noticed. What are you going to do about it? Call the police?" "You have no proof. You're old and alone. Who's going to believe you?" I reached into my bag again. I pulled out a second piece of paper. "This is a copy of my phone bill," I said. "It shows a call I made yesterday, right before I got into the medical taxi." I placed it on the desk. "I revoked my personal guarantee on your payroll loan. The one for $120,000. No! Effective immediately." Derek's face went white, then red. He stood up. "You can't do that." "I already did. That guarantee keeps my payroll running. Without it, I default. They'll seize everything. I nodded. I know. He was around the desk now, pointing at me. His voice was louder than it needed to be. You don't understand how business works. That loan funds my equipment, my vehicles, my employees. If you pull that guarantee, I'm done. Everything falls apart. You'll ruin me. I stood up slowly. I met his gaze and held it. You should have thought of that before you forged my signature. Before you stole from my savings. Before you told a nurse I had no one to pick me up. He opened his mouth, closed it. The words weren't coming. The hospital, I said. That's the part I can't forgive. You left me there. You made me a problem that wasn't yours. I was busy, he said. You were cruel, I said. I picked up the manila folder and placed it back in my bag. I walked to the door. I felt his eyes on my back. You're bluffing, he said. You're an old man with a grudge. You wouldn't do this to your own family. I turned around. I would do it again, I said. He laughed, a loud, forced laugh. You're bluffing, old man. I'll see you at dinner Friday. I smiled. Yes, you will. I walked out. The door clicked shut behind me. The receptionist looked up as I passed. I gave her a small nod. Then I walked out into the Arizona sun and drove home. I drove home from Derek's office with the manila folder on the passenger seat. I didn't listen to music. I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove and thought about Friday night. 2 days. I had 2 days to wait. I spent them quietly. I checked my email twice a day. I printed extra copies of everything. I called Mark and confirmed he would be available by phone if I needed him. Hey, he said he'd be at his desk until 10. You want me there? He asked. No, I said. I want you to hear it happen. He chuckled. I'll keep my phone close. The wait was strange. I felt calm, but it was a watchful kind of calm. Like the stillness before a storm. I made my meals. I did my laundry. I watered the plants in the backyard. Ordinary things. But I kept the manila folder on my desk, and I kept the recording on my phone. Friday came. I dressed carefully. Navy blazer, light gray slacks, a white shirt. I wanted to look like myself. I wanted to look like the man they had underestimated. I drove to Claire's house at 6. She lived in a modest neighborhood, one she and Derek had bought 3 years ago. A Spanish-style house with a red tile roof and a dying lawn. The lawn told me everything. Desert green landscaping could not even maintain its own owner's grass. I parked at the curb. I took a breath. Then I grabbed the manila folder and walked up the path. Claire opened the door before I could knock. She smiled. Dad, you're early. I like being early, I said. She hugged me. She smelled like garlic and olive oil. She had been cooking. I held her a moment longer than usual. She did not notice. Come in, she said. Everyone's here. Everyone. I stepped into the living room. Derek was on the couch, a beer in his hand. He wore a polo shirt with a desert green logo. He looked relaxed. He looked like a man who had already won. Linda sat in the armchair. She had a glass of white wine and a tight smile. Richard, she said, so glad you could make it. As if I would miss it, I said. Derek raised his beer. The old man shows up. I'm impressed. Where's Tom? I asked. He's running late, Claire said. He said to start without him. Let's wait, I said. I have something I want to share with everyone. Derek's eyes narrowed. Just a flicker. Then he laughed. What, you brought your bank statements? I smiled. Something like that. We waited 10 minutes. Tom arrived at 6:20. He was a stocky man in his 40s with sunburned forearms and a firm handshake. He nodded at me. Richard, good to see you. You too, Tom. Claire called us to the table. She had made lasagna, salad, garlic bread. She had set out cloth napkins and candles. She had tried so hard to make everything perfect. I sat across from Derek. Linda sat to my right. Tom sat at the end. We ate. We made small talk. Derek told a story about a client who refused to pay. Linda talked about real estate prices. Claire asked about my recovery. I'm fine, I said. Recovering at home. That's good, she said. Derek did not look at me. He looked at his plate and ate. The meal wound down. No! Claire brought out coffee and a store-bought cheesecake. She set the plates down and sat. I waited until everyone had coffee in front of them. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out a small device, a portable speaker. I had bought it that morning. I placed it on the table. "What's that?" Claire asked. I pressed play. Derek's voice filled the room. "He's not our problem. No family member can take him home. He lives alone. His wife died 6 years ago. There's no one." Silence. The recording continued. The nurse's voice. "But you're his son-in-law. You're listed as emergency contact." Derek again. "I'm busy. I have a business to run. He'll figure it out." The recording stopped. I looked at Derek. His face had lost all color. His mouth was open. He said nothing. Claire stared at me. "Dad." Is that him?" "Yes," I said. "That's your husband." Linda slammed her hand on the table. "This is ridiculous." "You recorded him? You snuck a recording?" "I pressed a button on my phone," I said. I was lying in a hospital bed, abandoned. I reached for my phone and pressed record. It was not sneaky. It was survival. Tom set his coffee down. His face was hard. "Derek, is that you on that recording?" Derek found his voice. "It's not what it sounds like. I was stressed. I had a deadline. I didn't mean it." "You left him there," Tom said. "You left your wife's father at a hospital after surgery." "It was hernia surgery," Derek said. "He wasn't dying." "He was alone," Claire said. Her voice was small. "He was alone and you left him." Linda pointed at me. "You're trying to destroy my son. You've always been jealous of his success." "I have not said a word about his success," I said. I reached into my bag again. I pulled out the manila folder. I opened it and spread the contents across the table. Bank statements, loan documents, transaction histories. Derek forged my signature on a $60,000 loan from First Arizona Credit Union, I said. He siphoned $15,000 from my savings account over 6 months. He told me he needed joint signatory status for emergencies. He used it to steal from me. Claire picked up one of the documents. Her hands were shaking. "Derek? What is this?" He did not answer. "When did you forge Dad's signature?" Claire asked. Her voice was rising. "Claire, honey, it's not that simple," Derek said. "It's exactly that simple," I said. "You took my name. You put it on a document. You signed it without my knowledge or consent. That is forgery. That is a crime." Linda stood up. "You cannot prove that. You cannot prove Derek did it." I looked at her. "I have a handwriting expert. I have the original documents from my file cabinet. I have the bank's records showing the withdrawal dates. I have everything." Tom pushed his chair back. He stood. "Derek, the partnership agreement requires unanimous consent for any loan over $50,000. Did you get my consent?" Derek did not meet his eyes. "Answer me," Tom said. "I handled it," Derek said. "It was a short-term thing. I was going to pay it back." "With what money?" I asked. The room went silent. Tom picked up one of the documents. He read it slowly. Then he set it down. "This violates the partnership agreement," he said. "This is grounds for dissolution. This is grounds for your removal." "You cannot remove me," Derek said. "I own half of this company." "Half," Tom said. "But you cannot operate half a landscaping company without equipment. And the equipment is owned by the company, not by you." Derek's face tightened. "What are you saying?" Tom turned to me. "Richard, thank you for bringing this to my attention." "You are welcome," I said. Tom looked at Derek. "Derek, you're done. I'm calling the bank tonight." Derek's face went white. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay in my bed and listened to the grandfather clock chime every hour. Midnight. 1, 2, 3. Each chime was another minute closer to Saturday morning. At 7 in the morning, my phone rang. I was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold. The caller ID showed Mark Chen's name. "Richard," he said, "it's done." I set down my coffee cup. "Tell me." "Payroll Solutions called Desert Green at 6:45 this morning. They informed Derek that the personal guarantee had been revoked, that the loan was in default, and that they were initiating seizure of collateral effective immediately." I closed my eyes. "And?" Art paused. "And Derek lost his mind. He tried to wire money from the business account to cover the payroll. But the account was frozen by the default clause. He couldn't touch a penny." "Good," I said. "There's more," Mark said. "Tom called me about an hour ago. He's already at the office. He's filed paperwork to dissolve the partnership. The equipment is being inventoried by a third party. 2 trucks, 3 trailers, a skid steer, irrigation equipment, hand tools, all of it." "What about the payroll?" I asked. "The employees will be paid out of the liquidation proceeds," Mark said. "Tom already contacted the payroll provider to process final wages. Derek has no access to any of it." "Has he called you?" I asked. "He's called me 6 times since 6:50, Mark said. "I haven't answered." I looked out my kitchen window. The sun was coming up over the neighbor's roof. It was going to be a clear day. "I suspect he'll come to you next," Mark said. "You should know that the seizure is underway as we speak." "Gah!" "There is nothing he can do to stop it." I took a breath. "Thank you, Mark." "You're welcome, Richard." "And Richard, you did the right thing." He hung up. I sat there for a long moment. Then I stood up, poured my cold coffee down the drain, and made a fresh pot. I didn't feel victorious. I felt something quieter, something closer to relief. At 8:30, I heard a car pull into my driveway. I recognized the sound of the engine. It was Derek's truck. I walked to the front door and looked through the peephole. Derek was standing on my porch. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His shirt was untucked. His hair was a mess. His eyes were red. He knocked hard. "Richard!" he shouted. "Richard, I know you're in there." I didn't move. "Please," he said. His voice cracked. "Please, I need you to call Payroll Solutions. I need you to tell them you changed your mind. Please, Richard, they're taking everything." I unlocked the door and opened it. Derek looked at me. His face was tight, desperate. "Richard, please. I'll do anything. Just call them. Tell them it was a mistake." "It wasn't a mistake," I said. "Please," he said. "Ah!" His voice broke into a sob. "Please, Richard." "I have nothing. They're taking my trucks. They're taking my tools. Tom is dissolving the partnership. Claire won't talk to me. I have nothing." I looked at him. I thought about the hospital hallway. I thought about his voice, saying those words. "He's not our problem. No family member can take him home." "I'm sorry, Derek," I said. "But this isn't my problem to fix." I closed the door. He pounded on it for another 10 minutes. I walked back to the kitchen. I poured myself a fresh cup of coffee. I sat down and watched the morning light spread over the neighborhood. Eventually, I heard his truck start. I heard it pull away. I sat there for a long time. My phone buzzed. It was Claire, a text message. "Dad, I'm coming home." The next afternoon, Sunday, March 19, Claire's car pulled into the driveway. I didn't get up. I just sat there, hands wrapped around a fresh mug of coffee, watching the front door. The lock clicked. She walked in carrying a duffel bag and a tote. Her eyes were red. She looked smaller than I remembered, like she had been folding herself inward for hours. She set the bag down by the coat rack. She didn't meet my eyes. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, kiddo." She stood there for a long moment. Then she crossed the room and sat down across from me at the kitchen table. She put her hands flat on the wood, fingers spread, like she was steadying herself. "I told him to leave yesterday," she said. "I told him I want a divorce." I nodded. I didn't say anything. I let her speak. "He tried to explain it. He said he was desperate. He said he panicked. He said he was going to pay it all back." She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "He had a whole speech ready, like he'd practiced it in the car." "Did you believe him?" She shook her head. "No, I don't believe anything he says anymore. I reached across the table and put my hand over hers. She turned her hand over and held on. We sat like that for a while. The grandfather clock ticked in the hallway. The refrigerator hummed. Normal sounds in a house that didn't feel normal anymore. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. "Dad, I found some papers a few months ago. Bank statements. They had your name on them." I waited. I asked him about them. He said it was for a business loan you had approved together. He said you trusted him to handle it. She wiped her eyes with the back of her free hand. "I wanted to call you. But he told me not to bother you. He said you were doing fine and he was taking care of things." I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. "Claire," I said slowly, "what exactly did you see?" She pulled her hand away. She reached into the tote bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She slid it across the table to me. It was a copy of the $60,000 loan document, the one with my forged signature. "I found this in his office," she said, 2 months ago." I stared at the paper. Then I looked at her. "Why didn't you say something?" She broke. Her shoulders started shaking. "Because I was scared. Because I thought if I asked too many questions, I'd find out something I didn't want to know." She pressed her palms against her eyes. And I was right. I didn't say I was disappointed. I didn't say she should have told me. I just reached over and put my hand on her shoulder. "Oh!" "You're telling me now," I said. "That's what matters." She cried for a few minutes. I sat beside her, not talking, just being there. When she pulled herself together, I offered to make tea. She nodded. I filled the kettle and set it on the stove. That's when my phone rang. I checked the screen. Linda Morrison. I let it ring twice. Then I answered. "Richard!" Her voice was sharp and tight. "I hope you're happy. My son has lost everything. His business is gone. His wife is leaving him. His life is in ruins." "Good evening, Linda." "Don't you good evening me. You did this. You pulled the rug out from under him. He needed that guarantee. He needed that money. He forged my signature, Linda. He stole $15,000 from my savings. He left me at a hospital, telling strangers I had no one. He was desperate," she snapped. "He was trying to keep the company afloat. He made a mistake." "A mistake isn't forgery," I said. "A mistake isn't theft. He's my son. And he's my daughter's husband," I said. "I expected better from him. I expected better from you, too. You knew what he was doing, didn't you?" Silence. "You knew," I said. "You knew he was taking money from me, and you didn't stop him. You enabled him." "He was trying to build something," she whispered. "He was trying to steal something," I said. "And he succeeded for a while. Until he didn't." She started to say something else. I cut her off. "Linda, I'm not going to fight with you. I'm going to hang up now. And I suggest you spend some time thinking about what it means to love someone so much that you help them destroy themselves." I ended the call. I put the phone down. Claire was watching me from the kitchen table. "Grandma Linda?" she asked. "Grandma Linda." She almost smiled. "It was a fragile thing, barely there. But it was something." She carried her duffel bag upstairs. I watched her walk into her old bedroom, the one she had painted pale blue when she was 16. She set the bag on the bed and unzipped it. "Dad," she said, not turning around. "Yeah?" "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." I crossed the room and wrapped my arms around her. She leaned into me the way she used to when she was a little girl. "You see it now," I said. "That's what matters." The first week was quiet. Claire taught her classes. I made breakfast. We ate dinner together most nights. Small talk at first. "How was school? Did you sleep okay?" The kind of conversations that fill space but don't touch anything real. Then on Wednesday, she came home with a pamphlet. "Dad," she said, setting it on the kitchen counter, "I found a therapist, specializes in codependency and financial abuse. I have my first appointment Friday." I looked at the pamphlet. A woman's name. An office address about 3 miles away. "That's good," I said. "That's really good. I need to understand why I let it happen. Why I saw the signs and ignored them." She sat down across from me. I found the loan document 2 months ago. Derek told me not to bother you because you trusted him to handle it. And I believed him. I chose to believe him. You were scared, I said. I was cowardly, she said. There's a difference. She wasn't crying. Her voice was steady. That was new. 2 months before she would have dissolved into tears. Now she sat there, looking me in the eye, telling me the truth about herself. I respected that. She went to her first session that Friday. When she came back, she didn't tell me what they talked about. I didn't ask. But she made tea, sat on the couch, and said she thinks I have a pattern of choosing emotionally unavailable men who need saving, like Mom did with you after her diagnosis. That wasn't comfortable to hear, but it was true. The following week, I drove to Mark's office. His paralegal, a sharp woman named Rosa, had prepared the documents for a new trust, revocable living trust. I would be the trustee. Claire would be the successor. No one else gets access. Not as joint signatory, not as co-signer, not as anything. Mark slid the papers across his desk. Initial here, here, and here. Then sign at the bottom. I already filed the change of beneficiary on your life insurance. What about the savings account? Closed. The funds are now in the trust account. No joint signatories, only you. I signed. It took about 7 minutes. 7 minutes to undo 18 months of Derek's careful manipulation. How's Claire? Mark asked as I handed the documents back. She's in therapy. She's honest with me now. That's more than I had a year ago. It's going to take time, he said. But she'll be okay. She has you. I drove home. That evening the phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. It was Linda. Richard, she said. Her voice was flat. I have nothing to say to you. I called to tell you that. You destroyed my son. You destroyed his business. You destroyed his marriage. I hope you're proud of yourself. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Linda, I didn't forge his signature. I didn't steal his money. I didn't leave him at a hospital. Your son did all of that. I just stopped enabling it. I will never speak to you again, she said. That's probably for the best, I said. She hung up. I set the phone down. Claire came in from the living room. Was that her? Yes. What did she say? She said she won't speak to me again. I told her that was for the best. Claire nodded. She didn't look upset. She looked relieved. I haven't heard from Linda since. I don't expect to. And I'm okay with that. Some losses aren't losses. The weeks passed. Spring came. The lawn started greening. Claire and I fell into a rhythm. She went to therapy. She came home. We talked, not about Derek most of the time, about books, about work, about my wife, about her mother. One evening in late April, she came home from a session and sat down at the kitchen table. Dad, she said, I want to tell you something. I sat across from her. I always thought I was strong, she said. I thought I could fix him. I thought if I just loved him enough, he would change. But love doesn't fix forgery. Love doesn't fix theft. Love doesn't fix abandonment. No, I said, it doesn't. But it can help you walk away. She reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry it took me so long. You're here now, I said. That's what matters, she smiled. A real smile, the first one I'd seen in months. We sat there in the quiet kitchen, her hand in mine. I thought about my wife. I thought about how she would have handled this. She was tougher than me. She would have seen through Derek the first time he offered to help with the finances. I wasn't that sharp. I trusted too easily. But I learned that trust is a gift. You give it freely, but you don't give it blindly. And when someone takes that gift and uses it to hurt you, they forfeit the right to ever receive it again. Claire is getting better, so am I. Not fast, not perfectly. But honestly, one honest conversation at a time. That's enough. That's more than enough. If you made it through this whole story, thank you. Hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.